My wife left me for a rich man, convinced he'd leave his wife for her. But when his wife found out, before we dive in, just a small favor. If you like stories filled with drama, twists, and real emotion, hit that subscribe button and support the channel. That way, you'll never miss out on content that keeps you hooked. I'm a 28-year-old male, and my wife Angie have been married for just 3 years. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Honestly, that's probably me being modest. I have a great job and don't really need to worry about money most of the time. I'm not caviar on a jet rich, but I don't need to worry about rent every month either. Both Angie and I came from modest backgrounds. So when I started making good money, I never expected that either of us would develop a lavish lifestyle. I mean, I always knew Angie liked nice things, but I'd never have said she had expensive taste. She was never that luxury car designer brand type, but she wouldn't go for cheap products or knockoffs either. I didn't mind. I had the money to keep her happy, or so I thought. We didn't spend extravagantly. That doesn't mean I was a miser or something. I actually spent quite a bit of money on her. I bought her a nice car. We live in a really nice place and we go on nice vacations at least once a year. But things started changing over the past year. Small changes at first. So small that I didn't notice them right away or I just overlooked them. Suddenly she was picky about what she wore. It didn't matter if it looked nice. It had to be from some overpriced brand. I thought it was a phase. At first I wanted it to be a phase. I thought she was getting caught up with those asinine lifestyle influencers online, and I figured she would grow out of it. But it only got worse. She picked up the infuriating habit of comparing our relationship to her friends' relationships. She'd tell me about her friend whose boyfriend just surprised her with some Italian shoes or a designer bag. Then she'd sigh and give me a pointed look. I put aside my annoyance. The sigh always drove me crazy and explained that I felt it didn't make sense to spend thousands of dollars on a bag. When her birthday came around, I got her one of those expensive bags just to make her happy. She loved it and took it out wherever she had the chance. And then suddenly she stopped using it and started dropping hints again. I asked her why she'd stopped using the bag, and she told me it was out of fashion. The bag was worth a few thousand, and she stopped using it after 6 months because it was out of fashion. I still can't wrap my head around that. Things got worse when she stopped comparing our relationship to her friends and started comparing it to influencers. She'd talk about some influencer whose husband just bought her a Lamborghini or something ridiculous. On the surface, it looked like typical celebrity worship crap, but I knew it was deeper than that. I knew she was just starting to reveal how materialistic she was and that she envied their lives. Maybe I could have spent more money trying to make her happy, bought her more of those expensive bags she liked, taken her to overpriced restaurants, or gone on multiple vacations a year. But you can't outspend someone's materialism. Sooner or later, she'd start asking for something I couldn't afford. I bought her an expensive bag, and now she was talking about a Lamborghini. So I put my foot down to let her know what I would and wouldn't be able to buy for her. I explained to her that while we might be what some people call rich, we still couldn't afford to be careless with our money. She was unhappy, but she took it pretty well. I figured she would get over it eventually. I never expected her to cheat on me because of that. Looking back, I should have seen it coming, but I honestly believed that she respected me more than she loved money. The idea of her being unfaithful never crossed my mind, but I was wrong. She started dressing up more, wearing clothes that were flashier than she used to. At first, I thought she was saving to buy herself more expensive things, but my suspicions were triggered when I noticed a new bag she had. It was unusual. She'd bought herself nice bags before, but this was different. I probably wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't bought her that bag for her birthday, but I could tell this was expensive. I kind of developed an eye for picking out designer bags. They were either ridiculously gaudy or ridiculously simple. She started wearing bags that fit both descriptions when she was out. One evening, I went into the closet to check out her bags. Apart from the one I bought for her, she had 3 in there that I suspected of being expensive. Identifying them was simple enough. I pointed my phone at them and used Google Lens to do the rest. I was right. The bags were expensive, worth almost $10,000 altogether if they were genuine. There's no way she could have afforded that. I had to sit down and think for a while. My mind raced through possibilities, and I landed on either she was using one of my cards or she was having an affair. I decided I would check my card statement, but a new suspicion had come to mind. I checked out all her clothes and jewelry. Google Lens couldn't identify everything, especially the dresses, but it picked out enough. She had expensive shoes, bracelets, and earrings too. There was no way this would have gone unnoticed. unnoticed on my card. She was cheating on me to enable this lifestyle, unless she was moonlighting as a bank robber. I was waiting for her with all her stuff on the table when she got home. She walked in completely oblivious to the argument that was brewing. She froze mid-step when she saw what was laid out in front of me. Her designer bags, expensive shoes, and jewelry were all in front of me. Her face went pale and she was quiet for a few seconds. I didn't give her a chance to find her words and come up with an excuse. "Where'd you get all this stuff?" She tried to play it cool, but she was obviously nervous. She started by saying that she bought some of them herself and the others were gifts. I asked who was buying her gifts worth thousands of dollars. She started some lame story about how she won at a raffle at work, and I got tired of listening to her insult my intelligence. I cut her off and told her that I knew she was cheating on me. She denied it at first. She was so insistent that she'd won most of the stuff that I almost started to believe her, as stupid as that story was. I asked her about the ones she said she'd bought. I checked the credit card transactions and none of those purchases showed up. What was her explanation for that? She realized she was caught out, and that's when everything changed. Her face fell. Then she sighed and crossed her arms. She asked if it even mattered who bought them for her. She admitted that she hadn't bought anything herself. There was no raffle. She sat down and told me that she'd been given everything by a guy named Ethan. The words practically knocked the wind out of me. I can't explain how much it hurt for her to confirm my suspicions in such a dispassionate, matter-of-fact way. All I could manage to do was ask her why. She sighed again, like this was boring her, like it was a tedious conversation that didn't bother her too much. Here I felt like my heart was breaking, and she sounded like she couldn't care less. She leaned back in her chair and said that she loved me, but I was too practical for her and that sometimes she wanted more. Too practical? Was that supposed to be a bad thing? I was responsible. I took care of her. I gave her a very good life. But that wasn't good enough for her if she wasn't living large. She kept repeating that she loves me, but I told her to cut the crap. I asked her who Ethan was, and she just shrugged. She said he was a guy she'd met a few months before. He was married, but he cared for her. Most importantly, the guy was rich, like really rich. The hits just kept coming. I asked if she was really cheating on me with a married man just because he had money. She said it wasn't that simple. I sarcastically invited her to explain it to me. She told me that the two of them knew they were both married but had feelings for each other. According to her, she understood Ethan in a way his wife didn't, and Ethan took care of her the way she deserved. They were both waiting for the right time to leave their partners so they could be together. I sat there in silence for a while. From the moment I was certain that she was cheating, I knew there wasn't a chance for us. But it hurt to hear that she'd already been planning to leave me. She watched me in silence for a while and offered a weak "I'm sorry." I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. Eventually, I stood up and went to our bedroom. I started packing her stuff. I was done. I didn't want her in my house a minute longer. After a few minutes, she followed behind me and asked what I was doing. I told her I was kicking her out, and she had the nerve to look surprised, like she hadn't just told me she was planning a new life with another man. She could go live with him for all I cared. She started shouting at me, challenging me for not fighting for her. I laughed bitterly at that. Why would I fight for another man's mistress? She made her decision, and now she was going to live with it. She kept trying to argue with me, but I ignored her. Once I had her essentials packed, I shoved the suitcase into her hands and walked her to the door. I told her she could get the rest of her stuff later, but she wouldn't be staying here another night. She gave up on trying to convince me and just stormed out the door. That's about it. And I still can't believe how quick everything went to crap. A lot has happened since my first post. Angie meant what she said and didn't waste any time serving me with divorce papers. She told me that she and Ethan wanted the process to be over quickly so they could start their life together as soon as possible. She claimed he would start his own divorce as soon as ours was finalized. So she made me in if I didn't drag things out, she would make it easy for me, too. She wouldn't ask for alimony and she wouldn't make any demands. After all, she was going to be rolling in cash soon. I was conflicted. On one hand, I really did want to make things tough for her. I wanted to get back at her. She destroyed my mental health. I found it hard to trust anyone after what she'd done to me, but I also just wanted to get things over with. I just wanted her out of my life so I could pick up the pieces and move on. I accepted her offer and we had a simple divorce. Angie wasted no time in flaunting her new life. I tried to keep her out of my mind, but there were some bad nights when I would find myself looking around and seeing how she was doing. By all appearances, she was living her best life, posting pictures of expensive accessories and gifts and videos of her at high-end restaurants. It felt like she was trying to rub it in my face, like she wanted me to see what I was missing. And maybe she was. Or maybe I was just projecting because I hadn't gotten over it yet. I won't lie, it stung. Not because I wanted her back, but because it was just proof that I'd meant nothing to her. All those years together, the life we built, it was meaningless to her because some guy with more money came along. She had destroyed what we built and still won in the end. It hurt. I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work and picked up old hobbies to keep my mind busy. I didn't start dating again. I didn't feel like I was ready to go through all of that again anytime soon. It took a couple of months, but I got to a state where I was doing better for myself. I completely stopped looking in on her social media, and the bad nights were fewer and farther between. The betrayal wasn't something I could just shake off all at once, but I was making good progress. Then when I started to feel like myself again, Angie came crawling back to try to ruin it all. It started with a simple text from, "Hey." I was so surprised that I stared at my phone for a full minute before I locked it and tossed it aside. I wasn't going to play whatever sick game she wanted to start. I left my phone at home and went for a walk to clear my head. When I got back, I completely ignored her message and went about my day. The next day, she texted me again. This time it was, "Can we talk?" No, we couldn't. There was nothing for us to talk about. She walked out on me for Ethan's money, and now she wanted to talk. For what? A chat? Did she want to be friends? Not happening. A few hours later, another message came in. "I really need to talk to you. Please." That got my attention. Angie wasn't the begging type. If she was reaching out like this, then something must have gone wrong. I debated whether or not to respond. In the end, I decided it wouldn't do much harm to just hear her out. I texted her back and asked what she wanted. She replied almost immediately and asked if we could meet in person. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. I said I was busy and told her to just come out with whatever she needed to say. Her next response took a little while, but it surprised me. She said she'd messed up and begged me for a chance to talk. My better judgment told me not to talk to her. I didn't want to give her a chance to undo the months of work I'd done to move past her betrayal. But I was also curious, and I was worried that she could be in real trouble of some sort. So I gave in. We met at a local coffee shop. There was no way I was letting her into my home. When she came in, I was surprised. She didn't look good, especially for a woman who was supposed to be rich by now. She wasn't wearing any of the expensive things I expected from her, and she looked miserable. I didn't leave any room for small talk. As soon as I saw her, I asked, "What is it?" She was on the edge of tears when she told me what had happened with Ethan. His wife had found out about him and Angie, and she'd given him an ultimatum. Her or Angie. Big surprise. Ethan had stuck with his wife. I wasn't surprised in the least, but Angie had been blindsided. She'd really believed that Ethan would leave his wife for her. Instead, he cut her off completely, and now she was broken and alone. I also couldn't find it in myself to feel bad for Angie. She'd broken my life into pieces chasing her selfish desires, and she would do it all over again if I wasn't careful. I asked her why she thought I cared. She reached across the table and took my hands and begged me to take her back. She swore that she'd learned her lesson the hard way. She truly loved me, and she'd just been blinded by greed. She missed what we had together, and she wanted to come home. I just stared at her. The woman had betrayed me, destroyed my ability to trust, and thrown away our marriage for a man who'd used her for fun. And now she expected me to feel sorry for her and take her back like nothing had happened just because her plan had blown up in her face. Suddenly she looked so pathetic to me that I genuinely wondered how I had ever been in love with her. I felt a wave of revulsion so strong that I snatched my hands away from her. I told her that there was no chance of the two of us getting back together. She'd made her choice and she'd chosen wrong. She had to live with it like I did. The tears finally spilled from her eyes, but I felt nothing. I didn't have any love in my heart for her anymore. I told her to sell the expensive stuff Ethan had gotten for her and get a job. She started begging again, but I got up and left without another word. She was so pathetic that I couldn't stand to be around her any longer. I tried to put the incident out of my mind when I got home, but Angie had other plans. She started sending texts and calling me nonstop. I had to block her number to get some peace. That worked for one night. The next day, she came over after work. She knocked and tried to get my attention for nearly an hour before she left. She did the same thing the day after. The next day, she ambushed me on my way inside after work. She'd started begging me for another chance again, but I cut her off. I knew I had to put a stop to it. I told her that I was talking to my lawyer about her harassment and that I was working on getting a restraining order. If she kept showing up at my home, I would get the police involved. She looked so surprised that I would even say that, but she left wordlessly. I haven't seen or heard from her again since then, and I don't miss her a bit. It hasn't been easy, I won't lie. I still have the bad nights where I feel the pain of the betrayal all over again, but they are fewer and farther between. But no matter how bad it gets, I've never missed her enough to consider letting her back in my life. She made her choice, and I'm glad she's suffering the consequences. Good riddance.